Back at it, Big D Energy, Woodward Sports Network, Neil Rule, Darren McCarty, Spencer Raxter, KG, all of you in the Woodward Sports chat thread as well. And as we always are on Tuesdays, of course, we are joined by our guy, Dr. Jeff Pierce, the injury insider from the Michigan Sports and Spine Center, a guy that's helped myself and Spenny out. He did some stuff for DMAC too, I guess you could say. A little bit of things for DMAC, seeing as Darren McCarty trusts his career with them. Doc, good to see you again. Bless you, DMAC. You got a third one? He does in there. All right. So we are
all three.
We are ready to go. No, but Doc, appreciate your time as always. And look, before we get into the Ragnow thing, which I want to talk about, I do have to give you your flowers. And I wanted to say thank you.
Okay.
Because I got on this microphone back during baseball season, and I saw the headlines. It said Kerry Carpenter, lumbar spine stress fracture.
Correct.
And I said to you, you probably remember this.
Yep.
I said, Doc, is this over? This sounds like it's over. It sounds like it's lumbar spine stress fracture. You're like, no, Neil, maybe a month. Should be good to go. And now he's hitting home runs off Emmanuel Class A, and here we are, Doc. So thank you.
We're celebrating, that's for sure, in Detroit with that one. It was like a pure swing. I think we can even go as far as to say that the fracture may have made him a better player.
Really? Explain that.
How deep you want to go. The thing is, like we've always talked about, with young players getting injuries, they have lived on their talent up to getting to the professional level. Sometimes the mechanics start lacking, but like we've seen that home run like 50 times already in replay. He's got perfect form. When these guys start getting injured, they start going back to the basics of infrastructure of their form. So I'll go as far as to say is because of the injury, there may have been something wrong with his actual form, and then we broke him down and made him more functionally, more mechanically correct in doing it and building the muscles up around it. So he's probably a lot stronger now because of the fracture, able to put it out of the park that easily, deep out. And I think a lot of times an injury like this wakes these guys up, doesn't take it for granted. Kind of like we can use you as an example. I mean, you stretch, but then when you felt the effects and that I'm at an age, it kind of clicked that this is something I may choose to do, but I need to do.
Right.
So now Carpenter's at a need to do to maintain his abilities, right? So I'm going as far as to say is that he's probably a better athlete, more physically fit because he needs to be because of the prevention, and he's we're going to see another home run out of this guy.
All right, Doc's putting it in stone, DMAC.
I mean, DMAC's a great example.
Of what? Putting guys back together?
Duct taping you back together.
Well, but I think that the whole point, right, is, and it goes back to the conversation to the trust of how I'm not going to hurt it anymore. So there's got to be still discomfort and stuff like this, or something that he's working on. But the fact is, they know exactly how to mobilize that injury to get him to be optimal when he gets out there. I think a lot of it too, Neil, we never thought about this. Kerry Carpenter about facing the lefties. We just thought it was protection. Maybe that's the protection for his back also, so doesn't have to have that many at-bats. It could be a correlation to that, right? So
yeah, he's still in a rest recovery, but he's definitely, from a pure physiological, when you have a stress fracture, you heard the word fracture, not the belabor.
I heard spine and fracture.
Right. You missed out the stress part, which means it's not a displaced fracture. It's a small crack in the bone that should be able to heal from a physiological standpoint.
So it's like a shin splint for your spine?
No, a shin splint's a splint. This is a fracture. So it's like a hairline fracture. You know how you say, oh, it's just a hairline. We see a fracture, but there's not displaced. There's not loss of bone, all those kind of things. And in the spine, it's a big, thick bone, and it's hard to fracture, but it's also will heal. And again, there's probably some secret sauce to speed up that healing. But again, it's what you do around it. It's the small ligaments. It's the small muscles making it stronger. So he spent a lot of time in his recovery and strengthening and rehab what he needed to do to have that rotational movement. Because rotation is one of the worst things you can do on the spine. So Yes, he's a better athlete because of it.
Talk with Dr. Pierce, our injury insider, every Tuesday here on Big D Energy, every Thursday with Ermanni and Edwards. He talked me down with the Kerry Carpenter thing, certainly the Jahmyr Gibbs as well, because, dynamic athlete, stop and start, foot in the ground. I was tripping out about the hamstring stuff. You calmed me down on that too. So I just got to start listening to you. I guess the moral of the story, Doc, is
I'm
fought
building
it for
my
so
credibility.
long. Yeah, I fought it for so long, but I just got to give in and listen to you. Big thing I wanted to touch on. Frank Ragnow, coming off a partially torn pectoral. Misses a week, back at practice on Friday. How? It's a partially torn pec in football.
Or I think the bigger question is, what does that mean to you of the impact of what injury, right? I know you don't see the x-rays and stuff like this, but when you hear torn pec, but then you see a guy back early, right, for a game, what does that mean? How do you translate that?
Well, I mean, we've talked about mental toughness, so I think that's up front, right? Ragnow, you got to, pin him down to not play.
He's Frank Ragnow's a psychopath. Right? Is there a degree of that?
He's very dedicated to his profession.
Okay, there you go.
That's dedicated, because if I had to do that, we'd diagnose a lot of these guys as psychopaths. But we call it dedication to their profession. And the thing is, like we talked about at the beginning, it's where the tear is. Like I said, he was fearful. He came off the field. We understand what it is. He knows his limitations. We talk about gears, right? Braylon started the whole thing with, I know gear 1 and I know gear 10. I got to learn to function in gear 6 and 7. And I think that's what Ragnow needs to do also, is that he can't go full out. He can't go full extension. He can't, he's not going to go toe-to-toe with the guy. He may have to give up a little bit when he starts feeling that tug on that muscle, which is a limiting factor, which, we have to trust him that he will be able to be smart and, insight enough to his body to know that when he's pushing or resisting these guys coming in without holding, he's going to feel some give here. He's not going to feel as strong as he is on the other side. He's got to okay, I'm going to give way so I don't ruin it. Will that lead to sacks? Will that lead to other problems? That's possible. So he's got to feel like he's 80. I would call it 80%. You have 80% strength on that side and resistance to be playing. A lot of guys, we've said an 80% Ragnow is better than a 100% other person because of his football intelligence. So he's more than just a muscle out there. He's doing a lot more. But I think practicing this week, I'd be surprised if he plays this week. I think within the next couple weeks, we'll probably see him out there.
Again, and people in the chat kind of jumping on me a little bit. Once again, Neil missed the key word again, partially. Look, Stephen Baffey, partially torn pec, Micah Parsons on the other side from you. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm always fascinated. I'm always fascinated by the mental side of a Frank Ragnow type, to where nothing is getting in the way. Nothing. Pain's not getting in the way. What you think should be is not getting in the way. And I know you talk about it a lot as well. Right. Why are some guys built different like that? Why?
Go back to their roots. I don't, we could get real deep on this.
I know, and I'm not trying to do that. But
I've been with every level of athletes, from the little kids playing mini football to the professional athletes. It's where you are. Sometimes this is silly, but I'll get a kid in my office with an injury. I may turn to mom and dad and say, is your son tough? Because when they're tough, it's harder to treat them, right? Because they're resisting, they're unaware of what should be happening. Some people are like, I'm getting from point A to B no matter what. I'll deal with the consequences later. That's a lot of players, especially in hockey, because hockey has been my most historical treatment of players all the way from juniors to professionals. They are the mentality of success, that they will get through whatever they need to get through and deal with the consequences after.
Here's the great perspective, Doc, that you have too, and maybe you can make it, because you deal with musicians and celebrities when they come in too. So it comes down to mentality also. Is it the same way, or are musicians or artists or whatever easier to train because of that? Or is it just human beings?
It's human beings, but like people make fun of, athletes are the same kind of people. They put their pants on the same way. They go to the bathroom the same way. No, they're
not the same.
There's a dedication. There's a grit, whatever we're going to call it. There's a mental toughness. What I think you're referring to is, why is Ragnow willing to get back out there when another guy with
Some
light
others
hamstrings are like, because there's agents, there's family, it's a mental toughness, right? Quarterbacks, wide receivers, are they softer than linemen? Yeah, maybe, but overall I want to say no, but I don't know where it comes from. I really don't. I don't know if it's the kid in Iowa that's baling hay all day long and I have to finish because all my chickens need to be fed versus Seth Curry's a great example. He grew up well. I know him personally, and his dedication was, why did he mentally turn it on when, LeBron James' son is maybe not at that mental toughness. We don't know, because you know what? That brain, just like we talk about concussions, there's part of the brain. We don't understand where it comes from. Why do you show up and do this show? Why is Mac here? He's already had a great career. What drives you? He's got plenty of alumni that are sitting home playing pickleball. He's here out. Is it because he wants
nationally ranked pickleball player?
See, there you go, guys. I like you three better than I like pickleball.
We rank ahead of pickleball.
No, it's just
there's
not an answer. There's an answer of who's tough, who's grit. Football players that are successful have to have a whole level of grit higher than everybody else, because that's why they got to that. It's not just talent anymore. You got to have all the factors.
John Fisher says some guys are soft and like Emmanuel Mosley, and some guys are tough like Frank Ragnow. I can't speak to that. Doc can't speak to that. Like we don't know what the story is there. Doc, you got me on a heater with the stretching and stuff like that. You got anything else for me? You got anything else I can do?
Yeah,
no, because for real, I feel 20% more mobility. No BS.
That's awesome. So, that's just a little thing. We talked about the toe-ups.
Yes.
It's like, like I mentioned, I don't know if I talked with you guys, but Gervin and I, George Gervin, the Iceman, obviously a good friend, we're looking to talk about how, we're both on the back nine. How do we contribute at this point from an educational standpoint? And it's the little things. It's like the toe-ups in the morning. It's like, what do you feel? It's like what I just said about little kids. It's also about adults. You don't know that you're missing something. You're just getting through your day. Weakness in your ankle is probably the most, like I've said, the most disrespected joint on our body. But when you start seeing your foot kind of flattening inward, that's weakness. It's like, get up on the outside of your foot. Like I told you, you start doing toe-ups while you're brushing your teeth. Those are important things. Understand, if I say core musculature, what do you think of right away?
Core muscle?
Yeah.
Like planking and stuff like that.
Right. So you're thinking more your core for your back and your abs.
Yeah.
There's core musculature around every joint of your body. So if you've had an injury to your shoulder, I criticize a lot of my colleagues, when it's healed, you should be fine. No, there's a whole rehab process that you have to put through to get that core strength back, to preserve that joint. So when you start talking about joint issues or weakness, you lose the core around your knee. Let's just pick the knee and the hip. You got an ankle injury, you're getting weaker on that side. If you start losing the core muscles around that joint, pick the hip because it's most common hip joint replacement. You start putting more pressure on that direct bone to bone, right? The ligaments are weak, the muscle's weak because you've slacked off or you've done something or you've injured it. You have to rehab, and there's core muscle around every part of your joint. There's something called a firing pattern. There's a certain way you should be running, like we talked about Carpenter. There's a way to deliver that swing or a golf swing. There's a pattern to it of what muscles and what rotation should be kicked in, and we can break it all down. So you need to understand the mechanics of what you're doing besides just stretching.
Woodward Sports chat thread before we let the doc go here. Greg B29, need more doctors like Dr. Pierce.
Yeah.
And then Dina says, I hate that stretching works, LOL. I agree. I agree, but here we are. Doc, appreciate the time as always, my
It's
friend.
true. Just one more thing, like
Yes.
the hamstring with Gibbs, it should give everybody who's a real Lions fan to understand if you can't touch your toes or you can't stretch that hamstring out, you're at a higher risk of injury of back issues, buttock issues, and hamstring issues. So if you do a little prevention, if you're on the telephone, if you're on the TV, just do some simple hamstring stretches. One of the easiest things to look up. You can actually go to Michigan Sports and Spine for hamstring stretches, but they're everywhere on the tube. But
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, by the way. You can find stretches and everything and actual tools at MichiganSportsAndSpine.com.
Yeah,
Thanks,
so
Doc. Appreciate
we
you.
love that stuff.
Thanks, Doc.
Yeah, there he is. Dr.
Oh, real quick,
Yes.
I saw Billie Eilish last night. LCA.
You lucky
Big concert.
bastard.
Big concert.
I love
How
Billie
was it?
Eilish.
Huh?
How was it?
She's great. She's got her own thing, that's for sure. No costume changes, no dancers. Billie Eilish on stage is being real and raw, and that audience is very responsive to it. It was a great concert. She's not my number one performer, but I have a lot of respect. Again, those people are made differently. I mean, Billie Eilish, she's a different person. She definitely lives life to her own drum, and she's proven it.
She got kind of a fitness regimen and stuff like that. She's
don't-
not doing a lot of crazy stage work and stuff like that, though. So maybe
lot
not
of
as
crazy
much.
what?
Stage work. Like
No.
the dance routines.
No,
and,
I
and all
got
that.
Pink coming in next week. She's got the craziest stage
Yeah.
routines. She's acrobatic, but
You got Pink coming in next week?
Pink's here next week, yeah.
That is
Nice.
true.
Oh, yeah, and our golf outing. Top Golf. Oh, geez.
Yeah.
I'm pushing my time limit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Athletes Unlimited, our charity that you guys have been very supportive.
Yes.
We have a big Top Golf event November 7th to help all the impaired athletes that you see, kids with adaptive sports. We've been sponsoring that for 28 years. So
Awesome.
Come out and we'll put it through Michigan Sports and Spine and Woodward Sports how to find more information. But November 7th, Top Golf, everyone's welcome.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. If you guys got some graphical stuff or whatever, let's get it on and get it out there. Doc, appreciate you, my friend.
All right.
All right, Dr. Jeff Pierce, our injury insider. Ragnar's still a psychopath. I don't care what anybody says, but hey,
Attention sports fans, don't miss out on Expert Sports Injury Insight with Dr. Jeff Pierce of Michigan Sports and Spine. Join Dr. Pierce every Tuesday during Big D Energy and Thursdays during Ermanni and Edwards, where he offers top-notch injury advice. Trust the guy that I trust. Dr. Jeff Pierce is here to keep you in the game and performing at your best. For more information, visit MichiganSportsAndSpine.com or call 248-426-9944.